All right, good morning, students. We're still on the packet that I gave in class to talk about the different standards. Page 445, and I know you can't really see it on the video here, but we're working on proving that lines are parallel. So if we look at question number 15, they give you two equations. They give you that y equals 3x minus 1 and that y equals 3x plus 5. Right, so are these two lines parallel? Well, the first thing you need to ask yourself, is this in slope-intercept form? I'm going to write this for the first few examples, and then afterwards I'm not going to, okay? So slope-intercept looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. So it's the y variable equals the slope with the x plus a constant, and obviously the constant could be 0. So in this case, yes, this is in y equals mx plus b. So that's the m is going to be the 3, right? The x is the x, so the slope is just, the m is just a 3. And then even though it says plus b, this is basically plus a negative 1, so b is a negative 1. All right, so from the first one, we know that the slope is 3. And then from the second equation, we know that the slope is also 3. So are these lines parallel? Yes, because we said in the definition of parallel lines, right here, parallel lines have the same slope and different y-intercepts. So they have the same slope and different y-intercepts. All right, check. The next example is y equals 4x minus 5 and y equals 3x minus 5. And are these equations in slope-intercept form? Let's see. It looks to me like they are. That means that the slope here is a 4 and the slope here is a 3. So are these two lines parallel? No, because they don't have the same slope. Okay. Number 17, we have y plus 2x equals 6, and we have x plus 2y equals 6. So now the question is, are these two on y-intercept form? So let's see, y equals mx plus b. And the answer to this is no, because in slope-intercept form, the y is alone on one side and the term with the x and the constant are on the other. That's not the case here. We have the y on the left-hand side, but the term with the x is on the wrong side and is to be on this side. The 6 is already on the right side. So what we need to do is we need to move this one to the other side, but obviously following the rules. So if it says plus 2x, we would have to subtract 2x from there, and we would have to subtract 2x from here. Now this cancels on this side, and so now we have the y alone. But on this side, these two, you cannot subtract these. These are not like terms. See, this one has an x, this one does not. So I'm going to write the term that has the x first, and then the constant afterwards. Even though there's no plus sign there, it's an understood positive number. So we're going to say plus 6. All right, same thing with this one. The y term is here, but it's not alone. It's being multiplied to 2. And then we have the x term over here, which is technically a positive 1. So we need to get it to the other side, right? So since this is a positive 1x, we'd have to do minus 1x, minus 1x. This cancels. The 2y survives. And on this side, these are not like terms. All right, it's a positive 6, so I put a plus sign. But this is still not y equals mx plus b, because you see the coefficient has to be a 1, whereas the coefficient here is a 2. So we're going to divide this term by 2, this term by 2, and that term by 2. Every single term gets divided by 2. So now we have y equals, this right here is a negative 1/2 in front of the x. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3, so plus 3. They're both positive. All right, so let's see. Are these two equations parallel? The slope here is a negative 2, and the slope here is a negative 1/2. So the answer is no, they are not parallel. All right, the next example is y minus x equals 4 and x minus y equals 4. Once again, this is the y, This is the x term, and that's the 4. So we need to move the x term to the right-hand side. So this is minus x. We're going to do plus x. So now y equals, we'll write the x term first, so x, this is positive. Now this one, that's the x term. It's a positive x, so I'm going to do minus x minus x. Now this, you have to drop the negative y. Okay? You got to do things correctly to get the right answer. Negative x comes first, it's a positive 4, so plus 4. Now there's an understood negative 1 in front of this y. So I'm going to divide this by negative 1, and negative 1. Right, these cancel, and you're left with just the y equals, this is also a negative 1. So negative 1 divided by negative 1 just is a 1. 4 divided by negative 1 is a negative 4. All right, so now let's look at the slopes. All right, so this is y equals mx plus b equals mx plus b. All right, so the slope here is the number in front of the x, so that happens to be a 1. First slope is 1. And same thing here is an understood 1, so the slope is also 1. So they have the same slope. Are these two lines parallel? So the answer is yes, because they have the same slope.